So the kind people over at Otter Hockey were nice enough to send me over a couple of their new range to try out before the season started. So the first one I'm going to talk about is their new PB70 stick. Now this is a 70% carbon stick. It has a 24mm bend and the maximum bow point is 250mm from the head of the stick. The stick that I got weighed in at 513 grams and had a balance point of 39 centimeters from the head of the stick. It features Otter's ultra high control area that runs quite far up the stick, which is something that I've always liked about Otter sticks. This stick is what we would class as a Pro Bow model, which is a bit of an all-rounder stick. Before we get too far into the video, can I ask that you please like and subscribe? It really helps the channel to grow. And stick around till the end of the video because we've got a giveaway that we're going to be running with Otter. Now, as I say, this is a Pro Bow mold stick, which means it's got a really nice balance for not only hitting and close skills, but also for flicking. I always say that the Pro Bow mold is the most well-balanced mold out there. If you want something that's a bit of an all-rounder, this is always a stick to look out for. With this stick being a 70% carbon stick, it's got a very forgiving first touch in comparison to a higher carbon stick. So when the ball comes in hard, there's a small amount of flex in the stick that takes the power out of the ball and makes it much easier for you to control. Because it has that softer feel on the ball, it does still give you a lot of feedback, but not as much as a higher carbon stick. So if you're used to I always describe it as a lively feel of a higher carbon stick where you can feel every sort of bump on the ball as you're dribbling. You're not going to get that with a 70% stick, but this stick still gives amazing feedback with that in mind. As I talked about, this profile is fantastic for stick skills. When you're using both flat skills along the pitch to beat a player, or if you're using 3D skills to take it past the defender and into a space. One thing I have to say about the 70% stick is that the sweet spot on this one was absolutely massive. I really struggled to find a point on the head of the stick where I was hitting the ball where I wasn't getting a clean connection. That being said, with it being a 70% carbon stick, it does have that slight flex that I talked about earlier, which makes it very forgiving when you're receiving the ball. It also means you don't get as much power transfer as you do with a higher carbon stick. But again, taking that into consideration, the power transfer for this 70% carbon stick was fantastic. It had great power when hitting, and I can imagine on a cold winter's night when you're training in the UK especially, that small amount of flex absorbing the vibrations when you're hitting in the cold would be very appreciated. This stick was truly fantastic for slap hitting. The accuracy that I could get was amazing. It still had that small flex when you were slap hitting, but the accuracy really made up for it. This stick had a really nice thickness to the reverse edge, which made it very good for hitting clean tomahawks. You could easily hit through the middle of the ball. What I often find with 70% carbon sticks is that when hitting on the reverse edge for a tomahawk shot, you get a much better power transfer because the stick doesn't have as much flex. So for tomahawk hitting, it almost hits as a higher carbon stick would. With that in mind, I found this stick was really great for taking shots on reverse, and it gave me a lot of confidence in taking it into the D and rolling onto my reverse to get the shot off. This stick was good for flicking. The small amount of flex in the stick actually helped to add a little bit of power because you can feel the stick bouncing or springing back into position as you're releasing the ball, and that little bit of extra spring transfers onto the ball and gives you a little bit more power. You can use the bow on this stick to generate a little bit more power as well, but by doing this you do throw off the release point for the flick, so you need to practice to make sure you maintain your accuracy. That being said, I found this stick was very good to flick with. You can easily lift the ball into the top of the net or flick low to hit the top of the backboard. I found this stick especially good for lifted passes, so playing a long range pass with a small lift. I thought this stick really was great for that. The head is well shaped for getting under the ball, and it makes doing 3D skills with this stick very easy. This will give you a lot of confidence going into tight situations knowing that you can lift the ball quite comfortably. This stick was actually very good for overhead passing as well. I was quite comfortable throwing 40-yard passes with this stick, and I was confident in the accuracy that it gave me. One thing I did find is that because of Otter's grippy touch compound on the face, it was very easy to add spin to the ball if you weren't flicking straight through it. When the ball landed, it would immediately bounce sharply to the right. As long as you've got good technique, you can quite easily compensate for this, but it is something to be aware of if you use it. This is a very good stick for drag flicking. The Otter high control area running so high up the stick gives you much better control of the ball through the drag. Because of this, you can utilise the bow to add more power and whip. Because of the grippiness of the touch compound, it also adds spin to the ball so you can get the ball to curve through the air when you release. Just like with normal flicking, the flex in the stick actually can work to your benefit, as it can give it a little bit extra power as you're releasing the ball. With a little bit of practice, you can utilise all of these elements and you can easily put the ball into any corner with a good deal of power. One thing I did find with drag flicking with this stick was that I didn't feel like I could get as much disguise, which meant it was a much easier read for the goalkeepers when I was practicing with it. I'm sure with a little bit more time and a little bit more practice, I could have utilised slightly changing my technique to make it harder to read for the goalkeepers, but that's just something to take forward. So to summarise, this stick is very much an all-rounder. Gives you a great balance between hitting, skills and flicking. A 70% stick is going to be very good for most players. I think the trade-off between the drop in power from a 70% stick in comparison to a 100% carbon stick, most players won't really feel that difference, but they will feel the benefit of that more forgiving first touch. If you are looking to change your stick out and you want something that's going to give you all-round performance, I really recommend looking into the Otter PB70. So as I mentioned at the start of the video, myself and Otter are going to be working together to run a giveaway. It's going to be very easy to enter. You can enter through the YouTube video. All you have to do is post a comment of what you think is the most important aspect of a hockey stick. Is it the carbon content or is it the profile? Leave a comment below, any comment on this video or the following Otter review, which is coming later this week, which is for the O70 stick. We'll enter you into the competition. There's also going to be an aspect of it over on Instagram as well. So plenty of ways to enter. As always, if you like the content on my channel, please like and subscribe, leave a comment, share it out to your friends, let them know what's going on over here. And if you can support monetarily, I've got a shop on bossfhockey.com where you can buy grips and t-shirts and posters, or you can head over to patreon.com/bossfhockey. You can make a small donation per month, and for that you get extra content. I've recently put up my top 5 favourite drag flicking sticks. That's free for anyone to go and read. There's lots of other content like that coming, including my top 5 all-round sticks, including my top 5 favourite sticks that I've ever reviewed. And again, thank you very much for watching.